Hello, it is me again, Laura at Laura Speak. No, I'm not Speak Softer. I'm Laura at Laura Talk Softer. Gosh. Anyway, it's pretty bad when you can't remember your own YouTube name. I am Laura at Laura Talk Softer. You know, the Speak Softer has that, what is that? Alliteration? Susie sells seashells at the seashore. Is that alliteration? When all the letters are the same? Anyway, I used to know this stuff like, phew. So, with my slower moving brain at 61 years old in Northern California, probably breathing in a lot of residue over the past few years, fire ash and fumes, and living in a house that I don't know what is behind these walls, my brain has slowed down a bit. And the fact that I have gone on a extreme change in dietary consumption, and I'm eating very healthy choices, and eliminating my things that I usually function on, my sugary treats and snacks. I think that my brain is a little bit in like shock and trying to, trying to get me to eat sugar. Anyway, I make faces a lot. I don't have Tourette's or anything. Sometimes when I look at myself, I think, gosh, it looks like, I have tics, but my eyes kind of go back and forth because I have unbalanced vision. I do have that. My eyes don't work together. But okay, I saw a response on my banking video about banking safely, and I was making light, like exaggerating a bit, but not really. I do that, but I know I was like, had my mask on, in my car, which I do drive around with a mask when I'm outside because I'm having some problems with allergies and pollens, and I have to get some allergy medicine, I guess. Maybe I took some allergy medicine in the past when I had problems, and it was like non-drowsy something, Claritin, I think. And I was telling my doctor about it, and I found that, okay, I'm taking non-drowsy Claritin. I was taking it I took it kind of near nighttime, and I found it was putting me to sleep. And I slept like I was on a cloud, and I told my doctor, and this was my MD doctor before I got my DO doctor. I told my doctor, I'm like, oh my gosh, I found something that helps me sleep, doctor. I take non-drowsy Claritin, and I felt like I was on a cloud floating. And she said, stop doing it, Laura. And so that kind of made me think okay, maybe sleeping on a cloud is not good. I'm trying to keep my eyes still. They go back and forth. They're trying to wank out. Wank out means drift out for me. Anyway, I'm staying focused, and I'm trying to look at you and keep my eyes straight and not wiggle. Oh gosh, it's really hard. You just don't know for me. Anyway, so somebody had commented on the video, and I just responded to their comment, and they made a good point. And person comes home, you go home, and you get caught by a phone scam. Oh my gosh, yes. I forgot to say the other thing. When you pull up in your driveway at home and you're coming from anywhere, whether it's getting groceries, taking something out of your trunk, or you're entering into your house through a garage, you have to make sure you're not being followed in. And you have to make sure that somebody's not out there hiding behind a tree or a bush or running up on you. You want to be mindful as you're exiting that car and be prepared. I am prepared at any given time to clobber somebody. I am. And I know that that is what probably has helped create my anxiety. But I've said this before. I was raised from the time I can remember, from my earliest memories, to be mindful of my surroundings, to pay attention, to listen, to look, to watch. That's why back in the day, people had the Walkman headphones. I didn't walk around with Walkman. I'm listening, I'm looking, I'm watching. And my dad, he's no longer living. He passed away, but he was in the Marine Corps, had joined at 17 years old. He spent almost 23 years in the United States Marine Corps, and he entered right as World War II was ending. He served frontline in combat in the Korean War and was in the Vietnam War, working, my understanding, on plane engines. He never talked a lot about his combat service, but what resonated with him was letting his daughters know, I think he felt like he had all daughters, no sons, that, you need to be mindful, you need to be safe. I think he had his own anxiety and stuff he wasn't dealing with. And I feel that between my mother and father, I probably have an inherited anxiety disorder as well as a environmental, because I thought that stuff that was going on as I was being raised was like normal, like everybody does that, So my father would say, Laura, what would you do if you were walking down the street and all these like horrific situations were happening? You have to know. You have to know, you have to already have it in your mind what you're going to do before it happens, so it becomes second nature. And I think that's in part why a lot of the schools with their, lockdowns, and like if there's somebody potentially going to create harm on campuses, they had the fire drills, the earthquake drills, the this drills, but they've had the like stranger on campus drills or whatever. So it would become almost rote that you react. And so like right now, as I'm sitting here at my in my mom's house, I'm sitting in front of a big table. If all of a sudden like I'm in California, the ground starts shaking, I'm underneath this table. And I've had that happen when I've been out and about, where I've jumped under a table and everybody else is sitting there. I have a very quick self-preservation, whatever. I tend to be a flight person if I see danger, but I have to be careful with that it doesn't send me running into more danger, so I have to be mindful that that's my natural instinct. My natural instinct is not to like be aggressive and fight somebody, but if somebody's coming at me or somebody that I care about, or that I'm trying to protect, I found out that through, being a mom, that a whole different person comes. I've seen these cat videos where like some animal is messing with the cat's kitten, and it's like, and then the cat's like looking. I feel like that's me. All of a sudden you're going to see me looking, and I feel like if I had ears that could stand up, and I know I've been told like you get a crazy look in your eye, and, and I have found myself in situations where I have felt embarrassed after the fact because of my reaction. Somebody coming behind me, tapping my shoulder. That's not a good idea to do to anybody, especially like in public and stuff. It's just not a good idea. It's not a good idea to stick your hand in somebody's car to pet their little doggy, because you never know how like an animal will react. Well, you never know how a person is going to react and what they bring to the table of experiences. And so I've had that happen. But anyway, so I had thought about the whole phone scam things. And not so long ago, when I moved in here with my mom, she had and I've done videos on it. She had a lot of ants she didn't know about because her countertops in the kitchen is that like dark marbly stuff. And, her vision she has good vision, but she wasn't looking real close. And I'm very nearsighted, so I'm like, your countertop is moving. I don't have ants. I see a few on the stove, which is like light covered, and they'd cross over and learned how to cross over behind the stove. So anyway, I got Clark Pest Control, which is I don't know if it's local or around the world, but Clark Pest Control is a pest control company that'll come and help you with ants and other stuff. So I called them, and they've been coming, for the past 2.5 years, because I particularly didn't like the fact that her counters had some ant issues at various times. And so I get this message from them when they're coming. They come every other month, and they spray around the perimeter of her house, and it's been wonderful. There's no ants, and so they send a message that our technician will be there between, they don't even do a between, they'll be there on whatever date, please have your dogs locked up, blah, blah, blah. Well, I have a gate that for them to get within the front perimeters of the house, I have to unlock it. I got to be here. I can't just leave things unlocked. It just doesn't work that way. So I kind of want to know when they're going to be here. So I've worked it out with the technician who comes out. He's become my regular guy. And so he knows to call, and then I'll be here to unlock stuff so he can get around the front door because it's gated, and around, certain parts I move stuff away from the house so they can really get at the base. Well, anyway, as I'm looking at these messages that are coming from Clark Pest Control, I've never responded to the message. And it does have click here if you have any questions, and I've never done that. It's like I know they're coming. But I looked closer, and I looked and I thought, this is weird. I had a message from Clark Pest Control, a real message from them that they were coming. I thought. Now they did come, but it wasn't coming from them. Somehow they intercepted the messages from this company, sent it to me, and the number was not the number of Clark Pest Control. And I looked and I thought, why is this number? You have your 3-digit area code, and then you have your 3 numbers, and then you have after that 4 digits. This was a 3-digit number with 3 numbers after it, and then only 3 numbers. And I thought, did Clark forget a number? So it was repetitive numbers. So I thought, well, let me just add a number and let's check it out. And then I said, wait a minute. I didn't click on the link that was there for me to reach out to them. I dialed it. And I thought, now this is weird. It said Dominican Republic. That's what it said. I hit stop. And I thought, nobody answered. Nobody sent any more text messages. But as I look back at the text messages that I thought were coming from Clark Pest Control, all of them were like that. That they were giving this bogus number, and that they were saying, to reach out to them, And I never did, because it's like I did reach out to them, but I never reached out from that text message. I have the number, I have their real number. And so I just always was responding that, hey, you guys are saying you're coming out this date, can, just a reminder, can the technician call? Because I'm always nearby, one call, I can be here before they even get to where they need me to unlock. And so, So this is a video that was inspired by a person who had commented about, and then she gets home, from the bank and falls for a phone scam. Absolutely. It can happen. You have to watch out for these phone scams for sure, with artificial intelligence, and I'm not all savvy on that, but if somebody's calling and sounding like my daughter and, oh, she needs help and please help me, or anything like that, we have already talked about how my response would be, and we know each other well enough that I won't go into that, but you need to come up with some passwords and some things you can say where the person might question it. Like, I'll just give you a random thing. Like, if you have somebody calling you and they're like acting like they're somebody, or that they know somebody, or this and that, and just say, oh gosh, whatever, Mary, I'm just like been unpacking from, my trip and stuff, and or some bogus thing that the person, that well enough would know, like, would be like, what are you talking about? Or, oh, I just finished eating my lunch of something, oh, it was so good, and like they know you don't like that. Or it can be so random. Or I just got done finished feeding my goldfish, Harry, and I don't have fish, or maybe I do have fish, but my fish isn't named Harry. Just something that I've said, listen, and if I'm saying something that isn't right, I'm waiting for you to say that. And I'm going to drop a few lines in there that might not be right, and some will be right. And I might ask a question like, hey, how did you make that, grilled cheese sandwich taste so good? And it'll be like, you're talking to somebody that is lactose intolerant, has made it abundantly clear they hate cheese. It can be anything. It doesn't have to be one word password, type thing. Give me the password. It can just be, I'm going to have a conversation if I'm questioning, anything about you. And I'm going to, in text messages, when I watch text messages of people coming to me that I care about, I'm kind of observant. I watch the style that people write and the style that they talk in. So for instance, if somebody's decided to clone me or whatever they do, I'm very talkative, and I also write a lot, but I do tend to have a certain style of writing, and everybody does. It's kind of like, you have forensic, whatever, criminologists that can look at styles of writing. And I'm not just talking about penmanship, but just the style and the wording and the choice of words people will use and the punctuation and how they use even an exclamation point. You can kind of sense like, is this person? Like, this isn't the language they would use. These aren't the words they would use. If my husband was sending me messages through a text message right now, but it wasn't him, for instance, it's like, that's not him. I know how he writes. I would wonder, and then I would probably write something back. I would not click on any links, but I just want you to know that is what I do. I've been told, a hyper vigilant on safety, but I don't let it paralyze me. I'm going to go out and walk in my community. I'm going to go to the gym. I go to the stores. I go to places where they have memorial rocks of the poor young person that was killed in the parking lot on a bright Sunday afternoon, just because somebody wanted to walk up to somebody and pow them in the head, and sadly, this has become more prevalent in the world we live in. Some of us live in safer, less crime communities. I unfortunately live in a community, when you kind of Google it, it's higher than the national average. I can't get my sister to come to help me with my mama so I can take a vacation. She's like, I don't feel safe. I don't feel safe there where she lives. She lives on the other side of the country. Her community does feel safe. It really does. It has a low crime rate. There's a difference in the feel, but of things. But I kind of got, you get used to it and you adapt and adjust. But you can't live in fear and let it paralyze you. But you got to be mindful. And this does not mean that I'm going to avoid every type of danger. This may be the last video I make. Today may be my day that I'm caught in a crossfire or something. I have no idea. By the grace of God, I have been protected from that. It doesn't mean that God is not protecting me if it does happen. It just means que sera, sera, and that's that. I'm not trying to make trivialize anything violent, anything like that. It sadly has happened close to home, and it's just from my upbringing and being raised, I watch your surroundings, and I can kind of look that way and see, get over there, mom. Yeah. You think when my eyes going that way, I can't see what's over to my right? Anyway, no, they call them lazy eyes, but you know what it is? It's a super strong muscle. It's really not that it's lazy. It's super strength. It's a superpower. 1, 2, 3. Anyway, I am Laura at Laura Talk Softer, and I am not just seeking like-minded people, but I am seeking kind-minded people. And so I do appreciate the comments of kindness. I did not appreciate the comment, though, that was put on that video of this lady's a racist, but that's okay. I probably do have my prejudices and all that. I don't know how that video seemed racist, but that's okay. They're gone forever. They'll have to come at me with a different name. I don't need that kind of engagement. And do not want that on my channel, though I know that I've opened it up in the world of YouTube, and probably shouldn't even mention it, but I will mention that if I just don't find it to be anything kind that's being said or anything that I can get from it, then I don't need that energy. You know what I mean? But this person, it was like, and then she gets home and, falls for a phone scam. That to me was not an unkind comment. That was very practical. And, so I also wanted to add it about the pay attention in the driveway, and I already responded to this person. So anyway, take care and have a good day. You'll probably see me later with the mask on. And yes, I have to wear the mask when I'm outside. I'm not making any political statements wearing a mask when I'm out. I'm trying to save my body from becoming hyperactive with these pollens. I have some issues going on with my skin and reacting to stuff. Let me show you. See that? And so I'm being treated for that. That's like the yard work is irritating me, I guess, or something. So there's that. I know I showed the messy table. But yeah, do you ever watch my background? I am Laura at Laura Talks Softer, and I do not live in a perfect house. And there are no perfect mouse. And house mouse. I was trying to make a poem. Anyway, good day.